What is darkness? Darkness is a sentient being, a conscious being. Where do I get this from? Well, the Most High created darkness, just like He created light. Now, the part I need you to focus on is whatever the Most High creates has consciousness. It's aware of itself, and it's aware of it being created and the one who created it. So therefore, that's consciousness. If I give you a little bit more example on this, what is life and death? Life and death are not the only thing that exists. They're not the only opposites that exist. Rather, there are things outside of life and death. Things that the logic or the test of life and death does not apply to. And as such, darkness is one. So, darkness has different stages, just like light and energy. There's the divine level, and there's the watered down level in which we see in this plane of existence we call dunya or earth. Darkness has a mission. It plays in many roles. Sometimes it can be used as punishment, and sometimes it can be used as enlightenment. The tool for enlightenment. What we need to understand is darkness isn't always bad. However, what it represents and what people make it represent. For example, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. In this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us and He says to us, Allah is the wali, the protector of those who believe. Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. And Allah takes those believers out from the darkness and places them into the light. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاءُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتُ يُخْرِجُونَهُم مِّنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ. And those who disbelieve, their awliya are the taghut, and the taghut takes them out of the light and puts them into the darkness. And for those, hellfire is their abode. That's where they end up. What I want you to focus on here is the darkness and the light. What is this darkness and this light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about? That the believers, the awliya of Allah, are placed into the light and the darkness. What are these two forms of light and darkness? As I said earlier, all darkness is not the same. Same with the light. There's different types of lights, different grades of them and so on. So, in this case of category, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is placing the two main events, right? The right side and the left side. The evil, the good. These two categories. Now, the other part that can also be added onto this, is when we go in deeper into the spirituality, is the light is associated with holiness. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says to Himself, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard, that Allah is the nur of the samawati wal ard. Now we know Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he tells us, when he met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us that there is 70 layers of nur that Allah has taken. Now these layers of nur, and the reason why Allah has taken them is to protect the existence that Allah has created from the nur that emanates from Him. So it's a form of mercy to His creation. Otherwise the nur that emanates from Him would destroy everything else unintendedly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken these layers of nur as a mercy to His creation. Allah Himself is nur as well. Now we can see from this, there's many grades of nur, there's many grades of light and darajah. So it's holiness. The other part that I also want to mention is the soul. We have a soul, and the soul of ours, where does it come from? Allah tells us the soul comes from Him. When He blew into Adam the soul, Allah says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِن رُوحِي. Many scholars, neglect to give further definition to this. But Allah is saying that the soul that was placed into Adam is unique and it came from Allah. It was not created in the same fashion the body was created, because for the body, kun fayakun was involved, right? Be as it is. It was a command. It was assembled in a unique way, but nevertheless, there was a command of involved into its creation. However, the soul is different, which is also what we need to take note, is the fact that Allah has ordered all of the inhabitants of the sama to make sujood to Adam. So further elevating the soul itself, the status of this soul. Now the soul is made from light. So if you're a holy person, a godly person, a good person, then the light will increase and the nur will increase. The opposite of this is a person who's involved in evil and does bad and follows the khutwat of the shaitan, the footsteps of shaitan, then they fall into that opposite of light, which is the darkness, right? And this darkness here is associated with the filth, the evil, iblis, fallen into that, horribleness, that disgustingness. Darkness has many stages and many types of them. Now, when the light was first created, common sense would say, okay, if a place, that has no light suddenly has light, then it would cast shadows, and that shadow would, it would insinuate there's darkness, and the absence of that light would be darkness. That's what the mind kind of would trend to. However, that's not the case here, because in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing exists without being created. That's a fact that needs to be taken to consideration. Nothing exists without being created, such as darkness cannot be there if it's not created. And even the beauty of this is in Jannah, there's a constant light that emanates, even in the day and night. Even though Jannah has day and night, it's not the type of day and night that we see here, where broad daylight and the other one is dark and night. Rather, it is a light that emanates to tell the inhabitants that day and night has come, but it's still bright. So it is a night without darkness and a day without light, in the sense of, the sun that we have or so. So it's a completely different existence, and the rules apply are different. The darkness, coming back down to our existence, the darkness has different types of them. The evil of darkness is the one that we are told to focus on, protect ourselves from it, not fall into it, stay away from it, purify yourself from it, strive for goodness as to not fall into it. That's what the teachings of Islam, the Quran, it's always pointing to, and it's trying to accomplish. That the believers are to attain a level in holiness, in goodness, that they're associated with nur. As you know, even in the qabr, the grave, the level of darkness that's there is so dark that you can't even see anything. And it's not the darkness of the sand and, the covering or the coffin or any of that stuff. No, because once you're in the qabr, your body, physical body from the human side is inside the soil, under the soil. But in actuality, you're in a different dimension called the barzakh. And in that barzakh, your abode, your first house, would be in the qabr. Now, to the humans, you're in the qabr, but in the barzakh, you're actually in a place that's different. It's like a waiting area, and for you to be examined, which is why the malaika come to examine and to question and to ask these things. And depending on where you pass a test or not, you fall into either categories, and both of them have either reward or consequences. If you can recall, I also said that darkness is sentient. Well, so is light. So are inanimate objects. Everything that Allah has created has sentient. Everything is aware of itself. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, we find this even more so, because everything will be questioned, and it will say, and it will speak. Right? Everything that is connected with tests of mankind, the samawat, the ard, the ground, the soil, the water, everything, the light, the day, everything, all of them will be held into account, and all of them will narrate what they have experienced and what they are witness to. So everything is aware of itself. The ones that normally you would find that are in ghafil are, the Ibn Adam and the jinn, because they're the ones who are busy with trivial things that don't really matter as much on the grand scheme of things. Because this whole hayat dunya, this whole life of this dunya, all of it is a test. But this escapes the people because we are so immersed into our daily lives. So much so it takes over our real objective, which is to strive for this higher realms of existence, this higher, realms. Because keep in mind, we're in dunya, the sama dunya is the lowest of the sama. There's 7 above. Now, to the people of today, because again of modern science and modern Western civilization's ideology and, the manipulation that stems from this deceptiveness, is it creates this notion where nothing else exists. So much so that many people believe there's no other intelligent beings out there superior to mankind, right? It is always that arrogance that stems off and gives the people the perception of say, hey, we're the only ones, denying angels, denying jinn, denying all of the, the heavenly beings, denying everything else. And that narrows things back down to our ignorance and telling us, and this shows us that in essence, we're no different than, a lowly being, kind of like the saying that says, being a frog on the bottom of the well, judging the heavens. Right? We lack the knowledge of the immensity of everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually created, because we judge based on our perception, what we perceive. The greater part of existence lies in what is known as the unseen. This is a very common term in the Quran, the knowledge of the ghaib, the ilmul ghaib. Now, again, it comes back down to the ignorance of people who have misunderstood and solely even make it to be that some of these knowledge can never be attained. Hence, it pushes people to darkness and ignorance. Now, on the contrary to all of this, the Quran, the very mission of the Quran is to illuminate, right? To reveal, to make sense of what's there. Because let me ask you this major question. If Yawmul Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will dismantle all of the samawats and the ard, nowhere to ever be seen again after that, what was the point of their creation if it's not for people to experience them while they're alive? Right? Think of that. Why would Allah create 7 samawats, greater, large in everything, better and magnificent in every category, only for Ibn Adam and people not experiencing them? What's the point of their creation? Right? So this opens up the whole door for us, is the existence that exists outside of our perception is far more grand and far more better. But it starts off from admitting to our weakness and where we truly stand, and reflect it on what's actually there, so we can attain higher understanding and higher levels of comprehension, and therefore becoming better and seeing the true magnificence of what Allah has created in this dunya, in this hayat dunya. There's so many things in this world, so we need to talk about these things and discuss them and further try to understand them and get out of this little bubble that we have made for ourselves. Because in essence, this darkness, this bubble is the darkness that we're in, keeping us from experiencing this great, beauty, this immensity, this holiness, this good thing that's outside. It starts off from looking within, in Tawbah, cleaning yourself inside, your heart, your qalb, everything, to attain what's actually out there.